20 seconds and counting. Team.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to another video on the channel here, Clutch City Entertainment. Today we're joined by one of the assistant coaches for the G League champions, Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and one of my idols growing up, Coach Sam Daghlas. How are you, Coach? Tell us what's up.
I am doing wonderful, man. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys and had a great time when I was the RGV assistant coach. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, it's a pleasure to have you on here with us. You know, just talking Rockets. It's pretty much something we all love to do, is just talk basketball in general. So, my first question is probably the question on everyone's mind. Have you worked with Gerald Green? And if you did, what was it like working with someone like Gerald Green?
I have not been able to work with Gerald Green, but the funny thing is I played against Gerald Green when he played in China. So me and him kind of battled during those years. But I know he's a hell of a guy.
I mean, yeah, he's very loved among the community in general. He's got the nickname the Mayor of Houston. So just the first question, I'm pretty sure that was on everyone's mind. It was going to be that.
You know, what's funny is when he got out of retirement, I was like, wow, that's a very bold decision because, you know, I like the position that he was in. And I thought he's going to help those young guys big time with his experience, especially he was a high draft pick when he came out of high school. And, you know, his career in the NBA was such an up and down. I thought he had a better second half of his career in the NBA than early on in his first few years. So I knew he's going to be a great help for the young guys on the Houston Rockets. But I always said it's more power to him. Players that can play till the wheels fall off. So when you retire, you know that's it. You played till the wheels fall off, and now I'm ready for my next chapter.
Yeah, speaking of developing young guys, what is the process like when someone gets sent down, you know, from the Rockets down to the Vipers? What kind of steps do you guys take to assess like what the player needs the most and like what you want to do with the player?
Usually when they send them down, there's a communication that goes on between the front offices, and then it gets related to the head coach, and then the head coach relates that message to us assistant coaches. And then from there, we want to work on whatever they kind of instruct us to work on. Similar to like my first year when we used to get Chris Clemens used to come down, Isaiah, Mike Frazier used to come down. So with Chris, we just wanted him to read the pick and roll better. We wanted him when he's attacking downhill, we want him to finish more under control and be able to read the defense. And at the same time, you got to understand when they come down, usually they haven't got a lot of game time. So the G League provides them with game, which is live experience. And regardless how much you do in practice, you need games. Games help you when you watch film with players for them to be able to visualize what you're trying to tell them versus just doing drills in practice. So it's a combination of both. We want them to get comfortable. We want them to get accustomed to the way the Rockets play, the pace that they play in. And then that way, when they get called on during a game in the Rockets, they're comfortable. They haven't been sitting out without entering a game for a month or 2 months. So that's why they keep bringing him in and out, which is, I think, is a great tool.
All right, Coach, I have a follow-up question regarding all that. So, you know, we know that the player development is a major role for the guys who are sent down to the Vipers. So, I just want to say, like, out of like all the players that came down, whether it be the Rockets rookies as well as like two-way players, just who do you feel like really just took like a really big step from the beginning of the year to like the end of the year now with the championship, or just guys who you feel like just took that next leap?
You know, last year when we were in the bubble, I thought Kevin Porter Jr. took a huge step working. I thought him coming in the G League, we didn't know what we were going to expect from him. Just him being an NBA guy, and now he has to stay in the bubble. It wasn't where he's going to go up and down. I thought he did a great job. Kevin Martin Jr. did a wonderful job as well. But to be honest with your guy that I'm really impressed with him is Queens. He came in last year in the bubble where not too many people knew of him and how good he could be. He showed us a little bit of glimpse how good he is in the bubble. In the last game of the playoff, I remember the first game of the playoff, the only one when we lost to Santa Cruz. He had a great game, and due to Kevin Porter and Kevin Martin, everybody got called up. So we basically lost our team in a way. We only had 8 players for the playoff game. And he showed, I think he had 30 something points, and it looked very good for him. And he followed up this year. I mean, he is phenomenal this year, and I think he's the player to watch now. So I definitely give it to Queens.
Yeah, Trevlin Queen had a great finals. Game one, he had scored 44 points, which was the second all
Right,
time like for the G League finals. But yeah, like my
exactly.
follow-up question is based on that. Like, how does the G League team struggle when players get called up and get called back down throughout the season? Like, how do you manage that two-way players losing
Uh,
some
you know,
assets every now and then?
I think it's tougher on the players than the coaches. We coaching staff, we know how to deal with it because coming in, we're aware this is going to happen often. But the players, it's kind of tough for the players that don't go. That they're not on two ways and they're just G League players, because their minutes fluctuate a lot. If the guys get sent down, they go from playing 30 minutes to 15 minutes that game, and they might get a DNP, not even play, because we need the Rockets guys to play whoever gets sent down. So I think it's tougher on the players than the coaches. The coaches, we got to adapt, and we know some games we go in, we're shorthanded, but it happens to most teams. So we're aware of it. I mean, practice, you got to get creative with the practice schedule when you have 7 guys at practice today, and you still need to get some reps in. But I think it's the toughest on the players, and this is where our role comes in, to keep them engaged, keep them positive, make them understand that control what you control at the end of the day, and be ready for the next moment when you step on the court, rather than what we call a tank it, and not look forward just because you're in your feelings because a Rockets guy came in and he needs his minutes. And this is why the G League is here for to benefit the Rockets players first, and then G League players secondary.
So you were
Yeah,
saying Kevin Porter Jr. and Kenyon Martin Jr. both came in and like made good leaps. And about that, I was wondering, did they improve in the aspects you expected them to improve in, or did they improve in like everything and like even stuff you weren't expecting from them?
Kenyon definitely improved a lot, because Kenyon didn't have any NBA experience. Kevin Porter had some experience with the Cavs, but Kenyon Martin Jr. didn't have. And I thought game in and game out, he just kept improving, improving, improving. And it speaks for his play this year. He looked comfortable. He was productive when he was on the court. So I think he had a major upside. And I thought he handled the G League well last year in the bubble. And everything all the information that we tried to give him, he took it in like a sponge and adapted well, especially to the NBA game. And I'm proud of him. He's had a hell of a year this year.
Coach, when you look at like the young players that are on this roster that just come in, whether they're on the Rockets team or just if they're on the team as well, guys like Dacian Nix, Josh Christopher, who came in for some time, and like Usman Garuba, all 19-year-olds. Do you feel like it was a little bit of a new experience for them where they all had their individual backgrounds? Usman coming from playing in Europe, actually Dacian Nix came from another G League team, and then guys like Josh Christopher who came from college. With all these different backgrounds and how they all came in, what do you think was really important in getting them to really connect on the same page?
I think Coach Mahmoud did a good job. I think he's great connecting with players this year. I know I wasn't with him this year, but I know he's a great guy. He knows how to relate to players well, and it goes from, you got to be able to relate to the players, like the game aspect of it, like the changes. Nick's him being with the Ignite last year. he had a taste of it, and I think he's so much better this year. He's playing more under control, shooting the ball much better, and I really believe our system, the Viper system and the Rocket system, it's a point guard's dream to play, and any guard's dream to play in that system. The up and down, in the way we play, the fast pace. It's perfect for a guard, and the ball's always in the guard's hand. So I think most guards excel in our system. So that's why you see Nick's doing so well.
Yeah, Coach, I want to actually speak up on Coach Mahmoud, who's had a great season, phenomenal season this year. Um, what do you think with the past previous coaches and the Vipers? They had Nick Nurse come out of the Vipers too. Do you think Coach Mahmoud will eventually get his chance, or maybe become an assistant next year? Like, what do you think would happen with Coach Mahmoud in
I,
the future?
I think whoever gets Coach Mahmoud is going to be a lucky franchise. The guy is such a hard worker, knows basketball very well. Um, One of the hardest worker I've seen, one of the most organized people I've seen. I love being around him. Players love to be around him. Great guy. So I think it's a plus for any organization. I definitely see him becoming an assistant somewhere next year. And I'm really rooting for him. And it just speaks highly of the Vipers organization. So many coaches came through the Vipers, and now they're in the NBA. This is just, I mean, it's an amazing story, and this is their fourth title. I mean, looking at it, it's a bright future for Coach Mahmoud, and it's well deserved, and he earned every success of it.
Who do you think has been the biggest locker room guy that was on the Vipers this year, and has the best impact? Everyone loves to be around him on and off the court. Who do you think that is?
Who do I think? That'd be a good question. I wouldn't know who would be this year. But it's a good question. But from my guess, um, traveling Queen, and Gerald Green, probably those two are the two that keep in the locker room glued. Especially Gerald Green. I'm sure he is the voice of that team, the veteran, been through it, and I can already see him. That's who he is. And speaking with Coach Mahmoud a variety of times about the team, definitely Gerald Green is the one.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Coach, touching back on the system, like how you said, the system for the Vipers and the system for the Rockets is similar. I mean, how important is it for players to develop chemistry together in the G League, and then to turn it to play together with the Rockets? Like we've seen Kevin Porter Jr. and KJ Martin play together with the Vipers, and then this past season with the Rockets, you can tell that they have this special on-court chemistry that they developed playing the same system, and the Vipers
Right.
playing the same amount of time.
It's huge. It's very important, and it's very important, I think, for every NBA team to own their own G League team, because they got to run the same system. Because when they send their players down, they got to get comfortable within the system. So when they go back up and they get in the game, they're accustomed to it. They're comfortable to it. So it can't be too you can't be speaking two different languages. It has to be the same language, the same everything. And like we said, and I saw in my first year when we had Isaiah Iceland and we had Chris Clemens and Mike Frazier, when they used to always come down and go back up. I mean, they just didn't miss a beat. They just hopped right in. And then we've seen it with Kevin Porter Jr. and Kenyon Martin Jr. Same thing. They're building that chemistry. And this year, I mean, we didn't have too many guys go up and down as much. I didn't see it as much, but the guys on the G League, you want to build that chemistry. But for the Rockets guys, when they come down and go back up, it's kind of tough because you don't know how many times they're going to come down and go back up. They're really going to build the chemistry up with the Rockets more than with the G League, unless they're going to spend a long period of time with the G League.
All right, Coach. I think I have a question that everyone really wants to know the answer to. So this was a really successful year, I would say, in my opinion. You know, you got the MVP on your team in Traveling Queen, the Coach of the Year. We won the championship. So what do you think is next for this team? Are there any more future goals that you guys have for next year
I,
or a couple years down the line?
I think you forgot one more award. executive of the year for Travis.
Yes, like as I'm saying, there's so many great things
Right.
happened this year. But what do you guys have
Um,
planned for like the future?
Knowing Travis, knowing the Houston Rockets, I'm sure they have some things on their mind, and I think it's always the number one goal before the championship: developing players and finding that next talent that you can kind of steal and sign them early. That's the goal of the G League. How fast can you develop players, and how fast can you develop these players that are under the radar that you can sign, and then they can become a star and help your team win? Because we all know the top 10 picks in the draft, everybody got their eyes on them, everybody doing their homework on them, everybody know their background check on them. But these ones that go under the radar, those are the ones that are, the G League franchises are the ones that are really working hard to find that next player that they can sign, and he can be a difference maker on the team. Because as you know, you can't give max contracts to every player, so you're always looking for that minimum guy that's going to make a difference for you. So that's, I think that will always be the number one goal. And I know when I got hired, that was related to me before any winning a championship. Championship is secondary. If we're in the playoffs, we want to go ahead and win it. But other than that, it's developing these young men and making them better pros and understanding the pro game.
Wow, yeah, coach, that was really really insightful. Yeah, I have another question just about getting back to that player development thing. Do you think that these players, when they get sent down, whether they be from the Rockets or they're just on the Vipers team itself, do they focus more on working on improving their strengths or building upon their weaknesses, or is it a mix of both? How does that exactly work out? Like, what exactly do you put more effort into, or is it more evenly balanced out?
I think it's more evenly balanced out, due to, because you're not sure how long are they with you for. Sometimes the players come in for a game and they're gone, or two games and they're gone. So technically, they're just coming in to get game time, game experience. And then when they're coming in for 2 weeks, or you got them for a long period of time, now you can kind of sit with them, understand what they're having problem with, what they're struggling with, what things you want to work on with, things that you can build on day in and day out. So you kind of you try to understand, hey, when you're sending me these players, how long are we having them for? Do we have them for a week, a game, couple of weeks? And then from there, you want to go ahead and start building like what you want to do with them in the player development skills. But other than that, it's tough, man. If they come in only for a game or two, not much you could do other than try to help them in the game, after the game, watch film, and just make them feel more comfortable. So when they get called back up and they're with the Rockets and they get called on for a minute or 5 minutes, they go in there and feeling comfortable because they just played two games and got game experience.
Yeah. There's a lot of people going down for only one game and getting called back up. But like, what do you
Right.
think about?
No, yeah. You see it with all the teams. You know what I mean? Players go in and out. And I think it's the toughest thing for players and coaches, to be honest with you. Just because, you can go in tomorrow's game, going with a game plan. Next morning, you find out, hey, we're sending two players to play with you tonight. Everything changes. You know what I mean? So, you see it often.
Yeah. So what I was gonna ask you, what do you think about like these high school players, like top prospects going straight to the through through the G League pathway, like on the Ignite team, instead of going to college? What do you think about that? Considering we now have Knicks and obviously Jalen Green on the Rockets and Knicks in the Vipers system.
Um, Looking at it basketball wise, it's definitely the best decision, I think. For if basketball is your goal and making it to the NBA and becoming a better pro, I say the G League Ignite route is the best route, because it gets you ready, NBA ready. You're learning the terminologies of the NBA. You're learning the way the NBA is being played. You're shooting from the NBA 3-point line. You're going against bigger athletes, stronger athletes, veteran players that are going to be playing in the G League. And you're only working on your game day in and day out. You're not going to school. You're not limited to how much time you can do on the court, like in college, how much time the coach can spend with you. But I think if you're like a borderline guy education is huge, well, you need to go the college route. So I would say, like, if you're a Green or a Knicks, you knew you're going to be in the NBA. I think they took the correct route, and this is why they're having such a success, and this is why Green having such a great success with the Rockets, and it showed all year. He was just comfortable. I mean, to the NBA 3-point line, comfortable attacking and things like that, things of that nature. So I definitely, if a player is going to ask for my opinion, and his goal is the NBA, and he's almost right there, I tell him, don't even think about it. Go to the Ignite where you're going to be working on your game, and you're going to get paid, and you don't really have to worry about waking up going to school.
Yeah, I mean, coach, just following up on that question, I'm pretty sure you've seen how good Jalen Green has been to close out the NBA season, like after the All
He's
Star
been
break.
phenomenal.
So I just like to get your thoughts on what do you expect from the Rockets and from Jalen Green especially next season.
I mean, he is so explosive. He is unbelievable. I mean, he surpassed expectations of a lot of people. He is very talented, and I think the future is so bright for the Houston Rockets. It's unbelievable. They got brilliant young guys, and then we got a lot of great draft picks coming up. So the future for the Houston Rockets is great. I think if you go ahead and put a couple of veteran guys with those young guys, this team's going to be scary. I'm proud of and happy with what the Rockets were able to do and build post Harden trade, and I think things are going to look up in the next 2 to 3 years for the Rockets.
Yeah, coach, you mentioned draft picks, and I just like to get your opinion. Who do you think would go number one in this year's draft in 2022 draft?
Very tough question, and thank God I'm not the one making that decision. I think that's the hardest part for GMs, finding that number one. It's tough. Number 1 through 3, I think it's the toughest pick. And I usually say the second and third pick usually easier, and it's same scarier. Because everybody oh, he's the number one, he's the number one, and I feel like teams just go with that number one just because everybody's talking about it. But the 2 and 3 are definitely scary picks because those 2 picks can definitely make a difference and change your franchise. So it's tough. I don't really know who would go number one, and I always say it depends on who's going to win the draft with the first pick and their needs. You know what I mean? So I think it's very tough. But I always look at it: take the best talent, never draft positions. Take the best talent available on the table on the board.
Yeah, coach. Everyone on Rockets Twitter were fighting over who should go number one to the Rockets. It's the same thing. But yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, coach. Thank you for taking time to come talk with us Rockets basketball and just NBA in general. And that's been pretty much it. If you have anything you want to say, coach, promote something, just tell people what you do.
I want to thank you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on, man. I mean, I'm just a student of the game, played pro ball for 16 years, and now trying to help other athletes, man, being a coach. And I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we can meet in person soon.
Perfect. Thank you, coach, and thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.